Right then, after many attempts at configuring my mic, it should now be at a reasonable volume with a minimal noise from other things. Um, you will be able to hear me pressing the mouse buttons and pressing the keyboard. They are noisy. I do not care to turn this down any further to try and prevent that noise any more than I already have. Basically, you'll just have to live with it. Suck it up, princesses, because that's the way it's going to be. I'm not interested in putting in that much work to make my audio flawless. Good enough will have to suffice. Okay, so actually, one more thing before we start. Settings, combat seems to be showing. Okay, so it's going to show that out of combat now for forever. Okay. I can live with that. It's just showing my minus Slayer being active. Oh, our weapon crit's gone down because of the patch. It's not good. It's not good. No, we'll be fine. We're a Nightblade. It's fine. We can just cloak and then attack things. So before we get underway, equipment. We are an Imperial Stamina Nightblade. We are using Selines as our monster set, so whenever we do melee damage, we have a 15% chance to call a Primal Spirit, which is a bear that mauls the closest enemy in front of you for 17,000 damage, occurs once every 4 seconds. It has an area of effect as well, so it can hit multiple enemies if they're bunched up close. It is a pretty powerful set, especially considering how easy it is to get. I mean, that is not a hard dungeon. I can't think of the name of it now for the life of me, but it's not a difficult one to get. So that's both in Divines. For the body set, we are using a Reliquin. Again, slightly buffed this patch, doing 472 physical damage per stack. And the stacks are applied by light attacks. That can go up to 10 stacks. So that's 4,720 extra damage we'll be doing every second. And we just have to keep light attacking to keep that up, so that's very, very powerful. It's not perfected. I have no interest in doing veteran trials to get the perfected version for just an extra 1k stamina. It'd be nice, but it's not necessary. Jewelry, we are using a Briarheart. We've got weapon damage, stam recovery, and we have on the front bar Briarheart, Nernhoned with poison damage, and this one sharpened with absorbed stamina. So basically, with this, when we deal critical damage, we increase weapon damage by 440 for 10 seconds. Critical strikes will heal us for 341 health. So there's a 5-second downtime on that, but it is very powerful and it adds to our survivability, gives us more weapon crit, gives us more stamina. And on the back bar we have the Master's Bow infused. Whenever we do poison arrow on someone, we get an extra 330 damage against them, and that stacks with the weapon damage enchantment we have, which gives us 452 damage against them, which will then also stack with this. So you see the weapon damage stacks up, essentially. When we start getting crits and when we start poisoning people, people start dropping. That's the idea of this. Skill-wise, we are using Killer's Blade, of course. Our Execute ability. We are using Blood Craze, damage over time and healing. We are using Surprise Attack. Knock enemies, stun enemies, and reduce their armor somewhat, and it hits very hard. We're using Rapid Strikes as a spammable ability, and we have Relentless Focus, very hard hitting once you get up to the Assassin's Scourge. Our ultimate on the front bar is Incapacitating Strike, very cheap, very powerful ability. On the back bar, we are using Endless Hail. We have Resolving Vigor as our heal. We have Shadowy Disguise for sneaking around and getting automatic crits. We have Poison Injection for a passive damage over time and executability and extra weapon damage. And we have Leeching Strikes for stamina and healing. And we have Dawnbreaker Smiting on the back bar, mostly for extra damage. Because we get extra damage from our Fighters Guild passive Slayer. So increased weapon damage by 3% for each Fighters Guild ability slotted. If I were doing a dungeon or a trial, I would take that out and put barbed trap in, and then that would be my my setup for trials and things. This character is very heavily optimized. She is my main character for PvP, so I've invested a lot of time in making sure her abilities are all leveled properly and work. As it so happens, she happens to have a lot of good stuff for her PvE as well. I've managed to get over time, and she does a lot of damage with that too. So yeah, we should be going through enemies like a hot knife through butter. Currently in Alinor. Alinor is my preferred base of operations because we have down here the crafting hall, which just makes life so much easier. So this is normally where I go to do all my crafting, because it's all in one place and you just drop them off over here. Yeah. So this is the day the patch has been put up. It's the day that ESO Markarth has been released. In fact, the EU server came back online less than an hour ago at this point. So I've not played Markarth. I don't know any of the spoilers of Markarth. I have not played it on the BTS, so I don't know anything about the storyline. I have ideas and theories about it. I think Rada al-Saran is a sword singer, because the Rada al-Saran did duel Leki in the Alakir Desert a very, very long time ago, and assuming that he's the same one, which he probably is because the Grey Host does date back to the first era, then he may be extremely dangerous in a fight. And there's only one person I can think of who might be able to match him, given there are no more Sword Saints, and that would be a certain Sai Sahan. Sai never succeeded in recreating the Sword Singer abilities, the Unsay abilities that we know of, but it's something that he has been devoting his life to, so he probably has a better understanding of those than most living people from this time period. So I suspect we will see Sai Sahan, I suspect we will see Rada al-Saran, we'll probably see Lyris at some point, although that remains to be seen. We'll almost certainly see Count Verandus and company, maybe with Fenorian, I don't know. I suspect we will get tantalising hints towards the next DLC, which I think will most likely be in Cyrodiil. My theory has been for a while now that it will either be Skingrad and the Colovian Estates, or it'll be Leowin and the southern Nibene area, or possibly, and this is like an outside guess, Black Marsh, but with Gideon as the main base of operations, and Gideon being... so I think Gideon was built as an imperial city. I don't think it's a native Argonian town, it's an imperial base of operations. So we may get some more imperial stuff from that, but we will see. Anyway, Dark Army marches across Skyrim, Count Veranda's Room, Watch seeks allies in the wild land of the Reach to uncover the true intent of the Grey Host. Find Veranda's near Markarth, the primary city in the Untamed Reach. Okay. Let's go. There it is, the Reach. In fact, Shrine Hollows, the solo trial, which we'll be doing at some point. Apparently I have all the lore books that are available in the Reach already. Okay. I like this loading screen. I will just say that, I do like the loading screen. I'm going to mute this a moment while I get myself a drink. I'll be right back. Or it won't mute itself because it's on the loading screen, I don't know. That could be the case. Let me just try that again. Okay, welcome to the Reach. Thank you very much. And I got something added to my hat. Okay, so that muted me while I was reading that. I was just saying that helm looked terrible, basically. I read the description, but I am going to get myself a drink now that I can mute it. Okay, I'm back. And these billions of people.
Be off, Reeker. Ard refuses to see you. Now go, before I gut you.
The Ard needs to hear what I have to say, my friend. It is imperative that we speak. Good to see you, my friend. I could use an ally in this desolate place. The Grey Host has turned his attention upon the Reach. The local ruler refuses my help. This so-called despot of Markarth thinks walls and centuries will hold back their fury.
Ah, good old Ard Craddock.
Ard Craddock, self-proclaimed ruler of the Reach. He rarely ventures out of Understone Keep these days. I've come to offer my assistance, but he refuses to listen. Meanwhile, even here in the shadow of the city, Grey Host agents plot and conspire.
And this is where I apparently lose my memory of everything that's happened over the past year and ask about the Grey Host, even though I have done the dungeons and Greatmore.
An alliance of vampires, witches, and werewolves bent on slaughter and conquest. I want to protect the Reach, but to do that, I need to uncover the Grey Host's plans and secure Ard Caddock's cooperation. Would you be willing to help me with this?
Nah, you're on your own, Verandas. I know they put that in because the whole thing with ESO is they keep saying, oh, we want you to be able to play it your way. We want you to be able to play it in the order you want to play it in. And so they don't want to tie people to having to play it in a certain way, in a certain progressing, in a certain sequence. But at the same time, when you make a year-long event, that kind of undermines that whole premise. But anyway, okay, we'll go help you.
With your help, we may save the Reach yet. And I continue to exert diplomatic pressure. I need you to find information the Ard will consider valuable. Something concerning the rebels that plague his rule, perhaps. Let's start by talking to the Sentry.
By rebels, we mean every single other Reachman that's not part of his clan, I assume.
Reach folk deal in bargains. They respect strength and skill, and they believe in rewarding favors. If we can bring something important to the art while demonstrating these qualities, I think he'll agree to hear us out. If we're to stop the Grey Host and help the Reach, we don't have a choice. At the very least, we need his resources and support. In my time here, I've heard about these rebels, but I'm not sure the extent of their rebellion. See what you can learn.
It also depends on who's calling him a despot. I mean, is it the rebels? Because the rebels, may not exactly have a nuanced opinion of him. Maybe it's the other Reachmen for trying to keep them in line. Maybe that's why they're calling him a despot. I mean, there's been a lot of stuff going on with Reachman and ESO, and I am interested to see a good side to Reachman society and culture. But at the same time, there has been a lot of stuff that kind of would suggest that a lot of Reach folk that we've seen aren't the best people. So if they're calling him a despot, either means he's absolutely terrible, or it could mean something else.
Remember, remain respectful but wary when dealing with Reach folk. They don't suffer long speeches, or even short ones. Keep your conversation with the Sentry brief and to the point. If you find something, meet me in Markarth at Understone.
Getting a bit stormy out there. If you're hearing thunder or rain in the background, that's actually from where I live and not from the game.
This Grey Host is somehow connected to the army that ravaged the land in the First Era. Like their ancient counterpart, I assume they seek to conquer and destroy. Need to learn more to know for sure. Meanwhile, we must get the Reach to prepare.
I mean, I have to say, I do find the Grey Host interesting. I mean, I found them interesting even before we had this year-long thing, because it is referenced in some of the lore books, but it's not like really expanded upon. We see a couple of the leaders of the Grey Host acting as Molag Bar's generals in the base game of ESO. King Styrich of the Calf, Fangoril, and the other one. They can appear at the Dark Anchors when you're fighting them. And there are references to the stand in the First Era at the Bankarai garrison, where the High Rock forces allied with Empress Hestra of the Alessian Empire to fight off the Grey Host. And apparently that's when St. Pellin jumped down and turned himself into a giant fountain of blood for everyone to drink, so on and so forth. All the stuff that was talked about in the prologue quest. So it is interesting. I mean, the fact that there's an alliance between vampires and werewolves in the first place seems a bit weird, let alone them forming an army and trying to actually conquer places. But that's something we've never really seen. I mean, the Cyrodiilic Vampirum Order is probably the next closest thing, but they tend to rule from the shadows, and they tend to be very subtle in how they do things. This is very overt. But anyway, Reach folk are barbarians, aren't they?
No, of course not. I won't mince words. The Reachmen are a stubborn and unruly people. They resort to violence at the least provocation, but despite the opinion of most civilized Tamriel, they aren't frothing barbarians. The Reach folk possess a distinct culture that you'll see during your time here. They also enjoy the same capacity for virtue and evil as Bretons, Nords, and the other peoples of Tamriel. Animals
Okay, this
don't
is
make one a barbarian. Actions.
This is reassuring me, because I was very worried when they announced this whole series of events that this was going to be evil Reachmen versus good Nords, and playing into certain stereotypes that I would be very uncomfortable with. So I am glad to see that they're not going down that route, and they are taking a more nuanced look at their culture.
An appellation he earned, as I understand it. Arkadic is said to be ruthless and powerful, a cruel leader who seeks the ruin of Tamriel and the death of any who reject the spirits, or what you and I call
Reputedly, he is a member of the Worm Cult, and the Reachmen do worship Molag Bal as a god anyway. So, kind of true.
That he's a king of broken antlers and carrion crows who eats the hearts of his enemies and hunts children for sport. Perhaps.
Wow.
But the legend always overshadows the reality. Kadok's legend is a mix of daggerfall insults and leech superstitions.
I mean, hunting children for sport's pretty understandable. They are kind of annoying sometimes.
He's a canny leader who applies both caution and brutality in equal measure. He calls himself Ard, the king of the fort, but his rule isn't absolute. Most Reach clans respect him, however. His help will be crucial in the battles ahead. This grey host is somehow connected. Yes, so my ward Fenorian has told me, which is even more of a reason for you to help me here in the Reach. Whatever Radha al-Saran began in western Skyrim, I believe he has something even more terrible in mind for the Reach folk.
I just wanted to see that conversation option where that led.
No, the Reach folk possess it, and you as well. I only wish we weren't in the midst of yet another crisis. I formed the Raven Watch to deal with this type of eventuality, but even with centuries to prepare, I find myself caught off guard. Kadok's stubbornness doesn't help. Yes, but too few. We tracked Radha al-Saran to the Reach and found the place crawling with grey host warriors. He's here for a reason. I think it goes beyond simple conquest. The truth of his motives elude me.
Yeah, the motives have seemed quite lacking thus far. I'm glad I'm not the only one who's felt this. Okay, let's talk to this Sentry Bodfa.
Didn't you hear? You and that fancy bastard aren't welcome here. Get, or I'll make a scarf out of your guts.
I'd like to see you try. You and your 15k health.
We know all about the blood drinkers and the beast folk. We were dealing with them just fine before Ard Kadok called us back to Markarth. The witch rebels are a bigger threat, along with outsiders who try to get into our business. Some wilder witch has been stirring up the clans to the east of Markarth, making trouble for Ard Kadok. But we'll have her head on a pike soon enough. Look, if you want to see the Ard, then bring news he doesn't know. Something about the rebels.
Sounds like a plan. Let's just see. I just want to see exactly where we are. So yeah, that'd be the actual city there, well fortified. And we are out hunting rebels, so let's see, we've got 3 different spots. I assume there's information in all of them. Yeah, this year has been one big, long love letter to Skyrim. I played Skyrim quite recently and I was in the Reach for a bit of it, and yeah, this is practically exactly as it was. There's a Harrow Storm, which we're not going to mess with because Harrow Storms are scary. And there's probably people fighting it, but I can always go to it later on and check it out. Harrow Storms on your own are not really something you want to be doing, so wait a second, there's something over here. Blessed Thistle, yes. Take some Blessed Thistle, definitely. I'm guessing someone's just come through here recently, like a hot knife through butter, and taken out most of the Reachman forces that would have been here. Maybe. Maybe not. I don't know. Ooh. These are nice. These got a Reachman structure tent things. The music kind of reminds me of Murkmire as well. Not exactly, but there's certain tones about it that put me in mind of it. It's nice, don't get me wrong, it just makes me think of Murkmire, which is a bit weird. I don't really associate the Reach with Murkmire in any way, so... Briar Rock Ruins, well, we could go there soon enough. Okay, here we go. I'm not in any rush with this DLC. I would rather take my time, like if things are being killed off because people got to them quickly. I would rather wait for them to respawn.
Stay here as long as you like. I'm done waiting for Arkadic to muster the clans.
Are you now? And what do you plan to do about it? Join those rebels? You wouldn't have the first clue about how to find them.
That's where you're wrong. Connell says they're gathering in the eastern foothills.
Well, then your head can wind up on a pike with the rest of them, you damn fool.
Okay. Let's have a look in here while we're here. Oh, Scary Tales of the Deep Folk. Okay. Even though it's abandoned, apparently taking anything from here would be stealing. Haven't seen anything that's really worth taking, but you know. This would be a nice little house, actually. I wouldn't mind something like this, like a little tiny Dwemer house. I know the one of the homes in Western Skyrim comes with a little tiny Dwemer house, but it also comes with a massive, great big frozen lake out the back, so it's not really quite the same. If you want to read those, just pause it and have a browse through. I will read them on my own later. I'll probably read them on the wiki. They're probably already up on the wiki, to be honest. With the PTS, PTS has been up since, I think, end of September, maybe. It's been a while, let's put it that way, and yeah, people have probably already put it on the wiki, so Host Intelligence Dispatch. Spies and Markarth report members of the Witches' Rebellion have infiltrated the city. They gather in homes and street corners, urging their filthy kin to leave the city and join them in the hills to the east. As our Ashen Lord routinely reminds us, the Reach folk are neither normal nor self-respecting. We cannot allow any Reach folk to evacuate the city. Any barbarian found wandering the hills and forests, this godforsaken land is fair game. Let these rebels fear the woods and flee the night. The sooner they die, the sooner our plans come to fruition. So are they herding people into Markarth so they can do a great big huge harrow storm there and bring something big and nasty out of Cold Harbour? Because that's kind of what it sounds like. I could pick up the side quests, but I'm not interested in doing them at the moment. I like to do the main quest first and then look at the side quests later. Could go fight a troll while I'm here. You never know, it might drop something. It's not very likely, but yeah, I don't like this lower this lowered crit chance. Oh yeah.
Get away from me, you rinker. The Reach war wasn't an invader. I think Arana spoke to me. I think she was their leader. No, like ghosts these rebels are. I plan to return to Markarth and petition the Ard to let me take a war party out to fight them. They must be hiding in the eastern foothills. I don't care if they are fighting the Grey Host. They're mine.
That's interesting.